Okay, good morning. We are starting Reish Aleph. Not starting, we're continuing Reish Aleph, Hilchos Mikvaos, Happy Hanukkah, and we're starting Seif Ayin Gimel. Okay. Shnei Mikvaos, the beginning is going to be continuation from before, and then we have a couple new fascinating topics. Shnei Mikvaos, She'ein Bahem Arba'im Se'ah. So you have two mikvahs, and neither one of them has Arba'im Se'ah. So, right, Megashamim, it would be a kosher mikvah, but the water is kosher, but you just don't have enough. V'naflu shlosha lugin letoch echad mehem. And then you see from the cup, a pitcher, 3 lugin fall into one of them. Ve'en yedu al'ezeh mehem, naflu. But you don't know which one it landed into. So whichever one it landed into, it's mayim she'uvim, and apostle it derabanan, right? Kuli alma. And then it started to rain outside, and both of them filled up with megashamim. So both of them would have been kosher if it wouldn't have been for the shlosha lugim. Now that you have the shloshim lugim of mayim she'uvim, so the one that has a mayim she'uvim is pasol derabanan, and the one that only has rainwater is 100% kosher. Only problem is you don't know which is which. So, lo yitbol b'shum echad mehem lechatchila. So the halacha is you're not supposed to dip into either one of them lechatchila unless you drain it out all the way, and you're left with less than shlosha lugin, or just make it bone dry, whatever, and then start all over again. That's lechatchila. But why? Because you know one of them for sure is pasal derabana. One of them is for sure kasher, deraisa and derabana, but you don't know which one. And since you have, and it's when it happened, the Safek happened, you didn't. None of them was established as being kosher or not. So therefore, you have en ba litlot. You have nothing to attach it to or to assume. So therefore, it's left up in the air. So lechatchila, we say they're both not good. However, b'di'evid, they're both good. Because once it already happened, and you already went into the mikvah, so then you can look back and say, well, it's a Safek derabanan, and it's not like, you don't have one to be tola either direction. So therefore, b'di'evid, if one went into such a mikvah, it does work. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, ayin dalid. Now this we've seen again a couple times. Let's just rehash it out in brief. Kol hamikvos animtzayim psulim. If anytime you walk into the street and you see a mikvah, again, we're not talking about our local mikvahs that have a building around it and it says a sign of a mikvah. We're talking about you walk on the street and there's a little ditch in the hole, a puddle in the hole in the ground, and it's filled with water. So again, it depends. That's also not exactly true. Let me finish saying. Basically, you're finding these pools of water. Okay, psulim. Maybe pools is actually the best expression. If you find a stam pool, you have to assume it's pasal. Sheches katan she'uvim, because there's a chazaka that it's pasal. Because how else did water get in there? There's a berez in there, there's a sink in there, or people empty things from the hope, store water with the buckets or I know, but you're right, but it's also for nowadays, hoses, whatever it is. Basically, it goes like this. You can read Ayin Dalid, you can read back to what we just read, Samach Tet, and you can read back to Seif Dalid as well in the Ramah. And each time it says something else, because each case is a little bit different. The Shach also explains this in brief quite well, because it depends. If you're talking about a mikvah that's becheskas kashrus, in other words, there's a sign on the door, on the wall, and it says a mikvah. So a kosher Jew built it and filled it up with water. So anytime it's like that, it has a cheskas kashrus. But anytime you're seeing a random puddle that's likely, so then it depends, he says. If it's likely it came from man or a faucet or tap water, so then it's pasal. But if it's likely to have come from rain, it's outdoors, there's no roof, it just rained last night, exactly. So in those cases, he says there's a chazaka that it is kosher and you can use it. All right. Like we mentioned yesterday, it all depends on the case. Okay. Really, not much more to say. Ayin hey. Okay. There's more to say. Yesh mi she'oser. So it's more of a I don't know, das yachid or a minority opinion. That's for sure. She'oser lahatil yora melea mayim chamim letoch hamikva lechamamo. Right? In the olden days, I mean, could be nowadays too, but a mikvah, generally, the water gets filled up with cold water. Water starts out as cold, and we know it's not so comfortable. So, can you use a heated mikvah? So there is an opinion, Rabbeinu Tam and maybe others, that says there's an Isser Derabanan to fill up with hot water. In other words, we know once you have a kosher mikvah, you're allowed to take mayim she'uvim with a bucket and fill it up as much as you want. You can put 1,000 gallons. There's no limit. It's only a problem if you didn't start out with a kosher mikvah of mem se'ah. Once you have mem se'ah, you can add as much as you want, no issues. What about if it's hot water? So Rabbeinu Tam holds there's an Isser Derabanan of filling it up with hot water. Why? Why is it a problem to heat it up with hot water? Or I'll explain in a sec. V'chein l'malaot mikvah mayim chamim. Or to just what we do. We take a mikvah and we fill it up with hot water. Well, basically that's what we're doing. We're taking a mikvah, we're filling it up with hot water, or we take cold water and we heat it up. Ulechabro lenahar b'sheferet hanod. And so that mikvah would have been not kosher, but then we have our tube, our opening, kishoferet hanod, to attach it to our otzar megashamim or otzar zriya, whatever it is. Here it's really talking about otzar hashaka. Fine. So it's connected. And so then he says, so the same problem. Anytime we go inside a mikvah that's heated, automatically there's an Isser Derabanan. What's the Isser Derabanan? So the Taz says, I mean, it's you don't need the Taz. It's in the Rishonim. It's in the Beis Yosef. But the Taz writes, Mishum Gzeras Merchatzaot Shetitpol Behem Beragola as well. It's the Gzera Merchatzaot, the bathhouses, because we're afraid if you see that your mikvah is heated, you're going to assume, oh, it's heated just like a bathhouse. And if this is okay for a mikvah, then mistama, a bathhouse is okay for a mikvah. At least I don't know. However it is, in those days there was a serious chashash that people would assume that, or there was afraid that they would assume that they can use any bathhouse. If their regular mikvah had hot water, then they would use. And obviously, those bathhouses, in general, were certainly mayim she'uvim, and that's for sure psul. So that's why we wanted to make sure nobody would use only a merchatz as their mikvah. Basically, the minhag is lakula. Well, let me keep reading the Ramah. Hagah. Now, most Rishonim don't have this problem. And so the Ramah writes that there are those who are mekel to heat up their mikvah. Kadei lechamamu umikol makom yesh lahachmer im lo b'makom shenagu lahakal. If the minhag is not to be mekel, then you should be machmer as well. As ein limchot biyadan. But those who are mekel, we don't protest. Tiveria mutter lakuli alma. But if it was never heated, it's just natural hot water springs, so there was never a gzera. It's not even doma to the merchatz. Generally speaking, the minhag in Klal Yisrael, as far as I know, around the world, is everyone uses heated mikvaos. As a chumrah, there are some who are machmer individuals, more men than women, and some are even machmer for the sake of what's it called? Sigufim, to punish oneself. That they say this is one of the only areas where one is mutter nowadays to cause themselves pain. Anyways,
the issue is not just pouring water into the
it's heating.
Heating the water.
It's heating it.
That would include metal bars.
I believe it includes anyway. That's what I believe. I mean, the minhag is to be mekel, so I'm sure people have different opinions on the matter, but I'm assuming it's Rabbeinu Tam wouldn't agree to anything but cold or room temperature water. Okay, let's read the next part. Now this applies. This is appropriate here, and it actually also would have been appropriate in the previous siman about going to the mikvah. Ula'achar atvila. Now this is all related about heating. Another gzera derabanan, which is also questionable. Ula'achar hatvila b'mei mikvah ksherim. Whenever you go to a mikvah, right, a kosher mikvah, you went in and now you come out. Now afterwards, after any of us go to the mikvah, what's the deal? Um, uh, well, I'll just point out that the Radbaz and others are matir. So whatever, to use hot waters, and we know that that's the minhag. I just wanted to point that out. And fine, let's just go on. The Rama continues. After you go to the mikvah, muteret likanes lamerchatz, kedei shetechamema atzma. So the Rama says, now she's all cold. She went to the mikvah, right? Cold mikvah. She comes out, she's freezing. So you're allowed to go into the bathhouse to warm up from the heat of the air. But there is an opinion that says it's usher to go into a hot shower, a hot bath, a hot shower. Anytime you go to the mikvah, you're not allowed to, he writes, to go into, this is the minhag, according to this, or it's usher according to this opinion, it's usher to go into a shower or a bath afterwards. Again, the same reason, because of Gzera Mechertzaot. You might think that really, the shower and the bath is what also makes you tahor, and then somebody might say, you know what, you can also just do that, or somebody will see you going only to the afterwards and not to the mikvah before. So yesh osrim. So some say it's mamash aser. V'chenagu. And the Rama says that is the minhag. So it's true, that is the minhag, certainly for Ashkenazim. It's a minhag not to go. So certainly for women, it's a minhag, I would say, similar to a level of a halacha on some level. Women do not go afterwards. Again, if there's extenuating circumstances, ask your Rav. But the Gra, interesting enough, argues, the Gra says there's no problem. He says, according to that opinion, that's only referring to truma. If you're worried about truma, which we're not worried about too much in taros like that nowadays, but the minhag is for Ashkenazim like the Rama, not to go. So many men do not have this chumrah. It's only established by women, or perhaps a zav if he needs to go. But for regular going, they Balkari, whatever it is. So Ramosha quotes, I think, the Tzitz Eliezer, if you don't mind, and others as well say it's mutter. There's no such problem. But anyways, yesh v'yesh. And among the Sfardim, so then Rabbi Avad Yosef in Yabia Omer says this is only, others as well. This halacha is only for Ashkenazim, for the Rama. Does not apply to Sfardim. Many Sfardim are machmer, but it's not mikar adin, and they don't have to be. And then once you go home, everybody agrees. All the poskim, as far as I know, agree that you're allowed to shower right away once you go to the house. Some might say wait a little bit longer, but you're not at the mikveh anymore. Mikar adin, everyone agrees you're allowed to shower right away. It's only a chumrah. It's a minority opinion that was accepted as a chumrah, and it was only for the merchatz, because you might think, now you're going home, you're not at the merchatz anymore, right? You can't. So that's the only time it's a problem. And the Gemara explains, because why would they want to go? The water was dirty, especially in those days. So they would want to rinse off, and then people might think that the ikr, or it's acceptable to do it outside in a bath as opposed to. Okay, and this just point out from here, there is what to be said about Friday nights. I'm just going to make one comment. That's why generally Sfardim will go Friday nights to the mikvah when they have to go Friday nights. They'll go during dafka during Bein Hashmashas, because it needs to be after Shkia. Normally, we're always machmer for after Tzeis, but really mikar din we can go after right? There's a right the din derabanan is we make sure we wait until shkia, until nighttime. So shkia is mikar din. So usually we wait till tzeitz. But why on Friday nights we go for shkia? Because we're going into a hot mikvah. So if you want to be yotze this shulchan aruch and ayin hey to not go in a hot bath in a hot mikvah, so you want to go during bein hashmashos before it says.
This is not the reason.
Yeah, it is. This is exactly the reason.
Here, because you're not supposed to.
For sure.
Oh, because.
Now Ashkenazim will still wait till tzeis because they won't let you go to the mikvah until nighttime, and they pascha nighttime has to be tzeis, not shkia. So there'll be makel on this halacha, like we're makel all year long. But anyways, I think that's the reason why. Anyways, never mind. But that is what's done. Okay, let's see. Should we start? Let's start a little bit from Siman Reish Bet. All right, Tzarachin on my last comment, but I think that's more or less true. Okay, Aleph. Siman Reish Bet, Seif Aleph. Elu chotzitzim bekelim hazefet ve'achamor. So this ve'hamor. So this we had. I mean, much of Reish Bet is chazara from the halachas that we had by Nida and by Tevilas Kelim. But okay, let's see if we have anything new. But let's read it inside. So normally by Kalim, well, the principle is pretty simple. Anytime you have something on top of your kli that's stuck onto it, that you don't want it to be there, so it's a chatzitza. And if it's a miut hamakpid, so then it's a problem, either a banan. Miut, if it's rove and you're not makpid, it's also a problem. Certainly, if it's rove and you're makpid, it's a big problem. But if you don't care about it and it's a mute, so that's when it could be okay. So normally, so it says over here, Elu chotetzim bekelim. We're talking about hazefet vehamor. So it's you got like this tar, I don't know, cement or just some stuff on there that you don't want. The kli zechuchit. We're talking about the Shulchan Aruch quotes the halacha. He's talking about glass, because on glass it's not normal to have zefet and more, so it bothers you. So beimi bifdim, beimi bachutz. You can have a chitza anywhere, a chatzitza anywhere. It doesn't matter if you drink only from the inside. If it's on the inside or the outside, and you don't want it to be there, it's a problem. It mentions glass because on other kalim, it's normal for it to be on it. Those kalim. Again, nowadays we have our processed kalim, manufactured kalim from the store. We don't want anything on it. So anything that you want removed, that creates a problem, right? Could be stickers, could be this, the residue, whatever you're makpid on is a problem. Whatever you're not. Because chuchit, they never put zefit on glass. So it's pashut. It bothers you. Other clay dishes, it was normal. They sealed it. I don't know, whatever the deal was. They used to put zephyr on it, so they wanted it on it. It's just the lashon of the example that was quoted. Okay, bet, but the principle is what we said. Let's do bet. Kol davar shederech lahakpid alav chotzitz. And that's what we said. Anytime it's the derech to be makpid, then it is a chatzitza. Vim lav, but if it doesn't bother you, ain't a chotzitz. It's not a chatzitza. Unless it was rove. Right? We learned that. Haga. Shacharut davuk beyoreh b'machutz havi kedofan hakli v'darko b'kach ve'ena chotzitz. So if it's just some black, a little stain from the heat, and it doesn't bother you, and there's no mamashas and whatever, so it's not a problem. If it normally bothers you, then it's another story. Let's just I think we'll do one more. We'll stop. Gimel. Yadota kelim she'enan omdim liyot kevuim. Now, let's say you have handles on your kli that they're not going to remain there. There's you're going to take it off. Kagon shechnisan shalokadarkan. They weren't put on properly. They're crooked, and you're going to take it off because you're going to redo it. Oh shaloich nisan kulam. They're not all the way in. Oh shechnisan kulam v'nishberu. Or they're all the way in, but they broke. Those handles or whatever part of the kli, they're coming off. So therefore, chotzitzin. I think it's self-explanatory, but as the Taz points out, because since you're going to take them off, we look at it as if they're not there, they're not permanent, they're not there, and so wherever they're touching your kli, at that moment, at that point, they are blocking the kli from getting the water, and therefore it's a chatzir. All right.